Okay, for this section, we're doing some drafting. So we've got quite a few parts to draft. So I want to go through these reasonably quick. So we've got a few different ways that we can work. We can do new, and we can go and choose the appropriate drawing. So if we choose our isometric draft on here, first thing we need to do is double check in our options at the top of the screen here. I need to go and find our drawing standards section. I need to double check what kind of projection angle we're going to be. So this template is first angle. I'm going to use the 1P11 template after this one, so it's going to be set to third angle. You can open your template, set that, resave that, and that is then going to be your standard going forward. What we can then do from here, if we go to our library, this will take us to where our open files are on here. So we can see we've got our open documents, and we can go to our home folder. Because we haven't saved it yet, it's going to go to the home folder of the last item we looked at. So we can go and find the appropriate items that we want on here. So let's go and find something simple out of these. So we've got the, let's do the wrist pin. So if we drag the wrist pin in, that's going to go and create a standard view, and it's going to go and fit that to our page. Over here we've got all sorts of settings. The one we're interested in is drawing view wizard options, drawing view layout, and the view orientation. So for this one, I want to go to the layout setting. So before I go and place this one, I want to go and choose the views that I want. So I want a front view, a top view, and a right view. If I click OK, that's then going to give me those views on my mouse. So I can then go and place those views, and we've got the appropriate hidden lines, etc. created on there. So if I delete that view because I don't want that one, that's going to give me those views. So that is, we can choose the view wizard to go and create views of the existing part, or we can browse and go and find other parts if we need to go and create those. Update views, if we make a change to that model, it will have a grey box around it. This tells us that it's out of date. We can then click update views, or we can right click on a view and we can independently update a view ourselves. So just find that option on there. For this one, I want to do a principal view. So if we click a principal view, we click a view, that view goes purple. That allows us to go and create views from that, going up, down, left, right, and isometric in the 4 different views that we've got. So I want to go and place that one, and then right click or escape to cancel out of there. So if I go on there and move that, this drawing view sheet's a bit too big, so I'm going to go to the bottom, right click on sheet 1 and go to sheet setup. We'll be on size tab by default. If we go to our background tab, that allows us to go and have a look at the available background sheets that we've got, and then click OK, and that will allow us to go and take those down to the appropriate size that we need on here. So we can go and leave these as they are. If you want to go and scale the view, we can go and scale the view on here. So if I want to go and scale that down, I can go and choose that. I might want that to be a shaded view as well. So we can go over here and choose our shaded options. And then if I do my update views, that's going to update that view, and we're going to get that material on there. So we've got 3 different things we can do. So we can do dimensions, annotations, and additional views. So it may be that I want a detail view for this chamfer. So I choose the detail view command, choose the center of the circular view, place the view, and then go and put that view in the appropriate place on our drawing sheet on there. If I click back on that view, I can go and change the scale value of that. So if I want to go and change that up to a value, I can go and change that up on there. If I want to show the profile, we can always go to our properties, and the general tab will normally have something that will kind of make sense. So show drawing view border, so that's going to go and show that border. Some people like that, some people don't. Next thing, annotations. So for these, we're going to have some kind of circle options. So here we've got annotations. So if I choose center line, I can choose to create the center line, and I can choose which way. So I want to do a center line by 2 lines. So if I create those 2 lines, it's going to create a center line between those 2. I could have created it by 2 points and clicked on the 2 midpoints on there as well. Once we created the center line, that's going to remember the position, but we might want to go and just extend these a little bit out on here. I want to go move this round as well, because that's not in a very nice location there. We can also do center mark as well. So if we go on here and I click this option for projection lines, and I click that element, it's going to add the projection lines so they stick out just a little bit outside of that element. We can go and decide what that is in the options if we need to. So next, I'm going to do dimensions. So I'm going to choose smart dimension. So when we click smart dimension, the first element will highlight. and then we can click on the second element, or we can click on a key point for that second location. So we can go and place that dimension on there. And when we place that dimension, some people like to have a grid. So there are options for having a grid, and we can allow that to go and snap to the grid if that's something that we want to do on there. So next, if we do smart dimension, if I click on this line and I go and choose concentric diameter, I can then go and place that dimension and click on the other diameters that I want, and that's going to automatically stack those dimensions for me nicely on there. If I've got a chamfer, I can go to my chamfer dimension. I can choose the type of dimension that I want. So if I want to call out, parallel, that's going to go and create it parallel, or we can go and do it perpendicular. So we can have it so it comes out, and we can show that several different options on there. Again, we can go to the options and we can do C 0.38 if that is our preferred option. There are plenty of options to have that on there. So now we've got that dimensioned up. We should find, as we go and save this, we're going to get the appropriate options. So I'm going to go and use my auto assign on there. This item hasn't got a document number, so I'm going to have to come back out of there and go back into that part before I can fully save this item. Any information that we go and bring in should go into our draft. You'll see this better on the 1PLM example in the next example that I do. So if I go back over to here and I choose the part that I want to dimension, so this time I'm going to go and dimension the crankshaft. I can select the part, I can choose right click, and we've got create drawing. We can also go and find it from this list that we've got on here as well. We can do create drawing, or if we open the part, we can choose create drawing of active model from the little drop down up here by the little new icon on there. When we do this option, we get some additional options. So we can do the drawing view creation with it, or we can go and create the standard views. So in this instance, I'm going to click standard views, and that's going to go and place those views for me on there. So if I don't want that view, I can just click on that and delete that, and I can go and create principal views however I want on there. So while you're creating a principal view, they're all from the highlighted view on there. So if I go and place that view, I'm going to go and do that color. It's always nice to get an idea of what that looks like, and then click open. So we can then go and reposition these, and we can then start thinking about dimensioning these up. Smart dimension can be used a lot of the time. So for this one, I might want smart dimension for my overall sizes. So this view, I'm just going to use this for my overall sizes on here. Notice I've got different dimension styles on here. So we have something called styles that allows us to go and choose what the dimensions look like on there. If we use smart dimension, we can click on an element, press A for angle, and then select another element. So that will allow us to go and choose the appropriate angle constraint that we want. So click on the first element, press A, click on the second element, and that is then going to go and give that angle. Notice I've got round off options, so if we're not we can go and see exactly what the angles are on those, and we can go and do that as a round off. So that's customized. You can see the style can have that set up, so you can go and set that in the style as well if you need to. Again, I'm going to put some center marks on here. So this time I'm going to do this by 2 points, and I'm going to go from that point to that point. I'm going to go and choose a center mark for here. I might want to go and do it to there maybe instead. And we can go and carry on drawing those up as we like. So next we can do chain or stacked dimension. There is an option for coordinate dimension. I'm not going to cover that in this. We do cover that in the standard training. So on here we can go and create our first dimension. So I'm not interested in the little features. If I go and drag that dimension down to there, I'm going to make sure that I'm on a normal dimension. So the dimension is horizontal and above the line. And then we can keep clicking on the elements that we want to go and create the appropriate dimension on there. So it's click and then click to place. So we can go and drag that wherever we want that on there. It might be that we don't want that style of dimension. We might want this as a tolerance-based dimension. So if I do the same thing on here and I go and create that dimension and then click on that dimension, that's going to go and stack that. And if I go and re-choose that, I can go and use this as my datum on here, and then we can go and choose those options if that is a preferred dimension style. These dimensions are all the wrong style, so I can easily just use Control, select those, and change those to the appropriate dimension style. And we've got the appropriate drawing. We have got options for projection line breaks, so if we want to make sure that we've got breaks on dimensions, we can do. This one doesn't really matter. So that's some of the basics on there. Other things that are quite nice is we can go and pick up material, but all that will appear down the bottom. We can see we've got stainless steel, and we've got the appropriate options on there. So when I go and save that, all those items are then going to go and appear on there. So next, if we go back to here, quite often we want to do assemblies as well. So for this one, if we have nothing selected and we go up to the menu up here and go create drawing of active model, that's going to go and create a drawing of active model. The standard view for a assembly is just a single isometric. So if I click OK, that's going to go and place that single isometric view on there. Notice this has got grey borders. That indicates that some of those parts are in open drafts, or some of the parts are open, or the assembly is open. So if I closed all that, I'll then lose those, and that will tell me that part is all saved. It's all ready to go there. So for this one, I'm going to go and drag this down here, and then I'm going to go and change that to a shaded option, just so that makes that look a little bit easier. And I'm going to get that view updated with that right-click menu on there. So with assembly drawings, obviously we've got overall sizes, but quite often we need parts lists. So if we just click parts list and then pick on the item that we want on there, we can normally have kind of standard parts list. Notice I've got all sorts of different ones on here. So I'm just going to choose basic parts list, and then go and place that list, and that is going to give me all the information, and it's also going to auto balloon that as well. This little thing on here allows me to go and customize it. If I click on the square, it's going to scale it in. If I click on one of the dots, it's going to allow me to go and move those. If I press the Alt key and click on the dots, that's going to delete those dots. So it's going to go and simplify that on there, and that's telling me the number on the parts list and the quantity of those. When I did create the parts list and click on there, there were lots of options we can do. We do cover that in the main training, so we can decide which options we're going to balloon. We can decide how our lists are shown, which items are going to be in the list. We can exclude items, and we can do all sorts of different options on there. I'm not going to place that list on there again. So that's a pretty good little option. We can also do clever callouts as well. So if I go to a callout and I want to show a certain item, I can go and add. All these options are custom, but I can say, well, I want title, parts list number, quantity and scale. If I then go and link that to an item, that's going to say what those items are as well. So sometimes the drawings are nice, but sometimes we want specific information. It's telling us what item number is, what scale that is for each of those items. If you have those items drawn up independently, that's also very useful as well. Okay, so next I'm going to go back to the assembly, and I'm going to create a quick exploded view on there. So I'm going to go back to my assembly. I'm just going to go into my data management tab, and I'm going to go and copy all of these into these on here, minus that one, just so I've got some document numbers on those. So we can now go and save these files without it telling me that there's an issue on there. Hopefully, let's check what this pin is doing. Let's try to save that. Okay, so I'm going back to the assembly on here, and so other things we can do with assembly. There's loads of things we can do. We can do check interference to see interference. If we go to the tools, we can have a look at motion. We can add pipes and tubing. We can choose electrical. We can create structural frameworks. But what I want to do on this, I want to just create a quick exploded view. So if I click ERA on there, and then choose auto explode, because I've constrained this in the way I have, the auto explode should work reasonably easy on there. So I've got my exploded view, and then click finish and cancel. I do want to shrink this up a little bit, so I'm just going to go and make a couple of changes to a couple of these items to go and tidy this up a little bit on here. So let's go 20 on there, let's go 10 on there, let's go 20 on there, and let's select all these and take those down to 30. So I've just shrunk that overall size. Let's just escape out of there and make sure that one, I'm just going to go 1. And that one can probably go, I can leave that one as it is. So that's not a bad view. I'm kind of thinking how that's going to look on there. It might be that I want to kind of shrink this down a little bit, so I can click on those items and I can choose drag component, click on the arrow I want to move it, and then I can go and move those in that direction. Click on the arrow and then go and move that back down, and that will create the appropriate lines on there for those items. If I then go and choose Control I, maybe go to a specific view on here. So we've got lots of different kind of shortcuts we can have. So isometric looks okay. Trimetric looks okay as well. Let's have a look. See what other views we can get. Yeah, Control M. That one looks quite nice. Okay, so that one looks quite good. So that'll fit on my drawing. If I then save that and go back to my drawing, I'm going to go and add a new sheet. So we just go Insert Working Sheet. That is inserted at the default size. So notice on here we can go Set Default. So obviously A1, even though A2 was on there. So if I want this to be A2, I can click OK. Remove this sheet just by clicking Delete. And then when I go and add another sheet, it's going to be the appropriate size that I've defined as my default option on there. So when I go back to my View Wizard, choose the top level, select OK. But this time I'm going to go to this Drawing View Wizard Options, and this is going to allow me to go and find my explode view that I created on there. So if I click OK on there, that's going to show my exploded view. I can scale that up or down however I want. So I'm going to go and place that, but then I'm going to go and scale that down just a little bit. So I'm just going to do a non-standard scale and then go and adjust that and then click Update Views. And we've got a nice view that we can then go and annotate, and we can see exactly how that item is going to go together. Drawings can then be saved out. So when it comes to drawings, we can go Save as Translated, and we can go and save these as PDF, DWD, DXF, SEV to take it to the Solid Edge viewer. And they can be printed. And if we go to File and we go to the paper print option, you'll see that there's options where we can go and do print drawings, and that will take us to a dialog box and allow us to print multiple drawings at the same time. Okay, hopefully that's been useful. That's the end of these basic ones. So any feedback would be really useful. Thank you very much.